my next topic and idea I wanted to talk about as far as Nickelodeon Kart Racers 4, if we get it this year, we're not sure if we're going to get one announced maybe during the summer, potentially. But my next discussion topic is cut characters, and as you can probably see on the screen, I have about 4 characters. You got 3 at the top, and then one of the playable racers, one of the 40 characters that they have for playable racers that I think are probably not going to be able to make it back into the game. And I don't want to say that for the 3 top characters. Changes for Mr. Krabs. I see him becoming playable, Shredder making a return, and also Plasmius getting the upgrade. Plasmius and Mr. Krabs getting an upgrade. I'm talking about character cuts, upgrades, and maybe some potential roster changes for this game. And I have my list that I created in the description as well, that I'm gonna copy and paste in the description for you guys to read through if you want to. If you don't want to listen into this during the live premiere for this week. And let me know what you guys think. What's some of the characters y'all looking for? Some of the characters you guys want to see. Maybe that particular racer that you're looking for, that you're hoping to see and finally get a shot and get a spotlight in. Maybe that particular series that deserves a spotlight and needs to make a return, a representation, like Rocket Power, for example, that I would like to see make it and be something to get some kind of reps for the game to beef up the roster. And I don't think I've seen any Rocket Power characters ever since that Nickelodeon Party Blast game that I heard a lot of bad things about. But I would still like to play it and try it. Nickelodeon Party Blast, because Otto and Reggie were playable characters in that game. But ever since that came out, they never really made a return in these crossover games, at least from my memory. But we're going to get into, talking about the cut characters and the changes and some of the characters I think that's probably going to get upgraded. And I'm going to move on over here to the roster so you guys will be able to, listen into this music if you want to. I wanted to have it play this song because it's so catchy while you guys listening to this. If you want to watch this in full and maybe weigh in the live chat, what characters you're looking for and what do you think, who's going to get cut. And I'm sure probably some of you guys already have an idea of one particular character that's in this due to all the craziness that's going on. But I'm going to get into that in just a bit. So everything I mentioned throughout this is going to be in the description. And for the list of cuts and maybe some playables that I see is probably going to happen. Maybe some changes if this game ends up becoming a real title this year for release. So hopefully it is. I hope they do a lot better with it. We need that crossplay, we need some DLC, we need some good communication so we know what's going on as far as the game. And the silence is not going to really help the product when people don't really have an idea what's going on. But I do hope they have a dedicated Twitter page like they did for this, and hopefully it doesn't drop off right after release day, days after. So we're going to start with cuts, some of the characters that I think that's going to get cut as far as playable racers. So playable racers, we got a nice roster. I like this roster, and unpopular opinion, Jojo Siwa is really a good character and on her character model, but it sucks that she didn't have any voice lines. Every character in this game had a voice lines of their own and reactions when they get hit by items, when they throw items, and they'll even talk during when you pick them on the character selection screen. And while you're getting your class and building up, getting your build together, you can be able to hear them talk and say iconic voice lines and things like that I like to hear from some of these characters. So playable racers that I think are going to get cut, I wanted to start with Jojo Siwa. I honestly think she's the most unlikely to return. I'll be very, very surprised if she does return. She's a great character. She's one of the fastest characters that you can probably use from Nickelodeon Kart Racers 2. Her stats are pretty good in this game as well if you have a good combo and a good build. I ran into a couple players online that was maining Jojo Siwa that like to play as her. So she's a lot of fun to play with, and her crew member Bobo is one of my favorites to use in online for those intense matches, which since you get the full protection and you're invulnerable. so nothing can basically hit you and hurt you. You can even stop the king jellyfish himself from, just running up on you when you have a good lead. You could just be able to just nullify him and stop him right off the bat, where you get the boost and you're just invincible completely. So Jojo Siwa, I don't think she's probably gonna come back. I don't think she's the most unlikely to return in Nickelodeon Kart Racers 4 if we get if the game becomes real. I think they're also going to remove the Kamper characters, Kamper SpongeBob and Kamper Patrick. I don't think they're probably going to possibly return. Maybe they'll end up getting replaced, just an ideal replacement right off the bat. They're probably going to remove Kamper, SpongeBob, and Patrick. I wouldn't mind them returning. If they do, they're a lot of fun to play with, and they're a lot different and stats wise from their regular modern SpongeBob and Patrick stats, and they have their own unique voice lines, which they could have did with Eastman, Raphael, and Purple Reptar to make them a little bit more different and stand out. Now, some ideal replacements for Kamper, SpongeBob, and Patrick right off the bat: Mr. Krabs and Plankton. I think are going to take these spots from these two for the Kamper characters. One of y'all was talking about it. Some of y'all were talking about it in the chat, saying the show is not going to have any more new episodes, or there's no plans for any newer seasons for the Camp Coral sort of series. I don't know if that's true. Maybe someone in the chat could clarify it and be able to let me know what the situation is for, Camp Coral or Kamper SpongeBob and Patrick for their show. I haven't even watched much of it, to be honest. I haven't. So I think they're probably not going to end up returning. And I also threw in Squidina from the Patrick Star show. She's pretty good in the game too. And the track, the road show, I don't think some of those tracks are going to even probably make a return. We're probably not going to end up seeing it. Maybe they'll bring the track. Maybe they'll have to they'll remove the racer or remove the character, but they might end up including it as a track, the road show. I love the soundtrack of that track and just all the other ones. Coral Camp is another good one with that slime slide included. They have really nice soundtracks. And then outside of Squidina, scroll on down. He should not be a slot, and he should not be a character at all. Eastman, Laird, Raphael, I put into this list, and also Purple Reptar. These two characters are definitely not going to be playable. If they go the route of implementing costumes, I wouldn't want them to put in costumes for these characters that we can swap. These should have been costumes. Purple Reptar and Eastman, Raphael. Only Raphael gets an Eastman sort of costume or a color palette swap. How come Mikey, Donatello, and Leonardo didn't get one? So they're probably going to do something of a similar light if they do something like this. So they did it for Eastman, Laird, Raphael. How come we didn't have those other slots? Look, right under Garfield and Odie, we could have had Leonardo, Michelangelo, but those don't deserve to be a separate slot. It's just a costume. It's the same character, and they all say the same thing. Same animations. See, they do the same animations. They say the same thing, and they don't have any sort of difference. When you look at the top right, top left corner of the stats, there's no difference in the stats between green, the regular real Reptar, I'll say. The base Reptar and purple Reptar have no differences other than a difference of color. That's the only thing. So they definitely about to get these characters up out of here, and I hope that they do. Because we could have just think about it for a second. We could have had two different shows, or maybe a new show to get represented with two new reps. See how Jimmy Neutron came up in here? His character model is awesome. And Cindy is, of course. Cindy Vortex as well. See how they got Jimmy Neutron and Cindy? Imagine if they had, Talk Puppy or something like that. They could have had Dudley Puppy and Kitty Caswell. You could have did the roster a little bit more, got a little bit more hype off that roster to maintain the initial player base, instead of just going this route. I think this wasn't a good idea. They definitely could have just made them into costumes. That's where they can open the doors to get costumes for some of these characters, just like they have for Danny Phantom, for example, from Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. You got Evil Danny, things like that, and then his original suit before he becomes a ghost and gets his powers. You got all those ideal costumes that you can implement into the game for Nickelodeon Kart Racers 4 to have the players unlock and be able to purchase out of the garage, or come out with some unlock conditions for some of these costumes to have the players stay active to get their favorite characters' costumes and grind it out. Not with the online wins, but just from playing the game and just being able to earn the slime tokens to buy them, and maybe playing a different mode, a certain mode, to unlock the costumes for these characters. Elastic waistband, see how they got that? The Quickster, you know, Captain Magma, you know, Sandy with her jersey, things like that. Those costumes can make a return. And then, just like I just finished talking about, the Eastman skins and the costumes can get added into the game. You know, just with the heavy metal Raphael, those costumes can make an appearance in the next game. And Zuko, Ponytail Zuko, when he first meets Aang from the Avatar himself face to face, when he's hunting him down, those could be costumes. So I'm hoping that they could do something like that with these as a replacement and take these characters out of the game. They're definitely not going to return. Now, another character, I'm not too sure. I don't think many people are fans of Real Monsters. I grew up watching the show. I played the game on a Sega Genesis, which was my very first main console platform outside of the Game Boy Color. Playing Pokemon Blue, Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, things like that. Sonic 2. I had this game, the Real Monsters game, that was really good. You could play as Oblina, Ickis, and Crumb. I don't know if they're going to keep Oblina. I hope she stays. I hope she doesn't get cut. But I had to slide her in. I had to slide her up in this cuts list. Maybe she'll probably get removed for Ickis instead, who's a chief in this game. But I'm about to get ready. I'm going to be talking about the chiefs and crew members that can be potentially playable later on in just a little while. In a little bit, actually, just to move forward. So I put Oblina in this list. She's the only playable Real Monsters character for a playable racer in this game. She was in the second, and she made it into Nickelodeon Kart Racers 2. Then she made a return, obviously, in the third game, but they never got any other Real Monsters to become playable. They ended up becoming chiefs. You got two chiefs. Her other two classmates, Ickis and Crumb, are both the chiefs in this game that you can see on the screen. Her other classmates and the friends that she hangs out with from the show are chiefs. But then the other characters, Grumble and the Snorch, are crew members. See what I'm saying? Look, got Grumble and the Snorch. Those are the only two additional ideal Real Monsters characters that got added, but they weren't playable. They're not playable in this game. She's the only one. So those are the playable racers that I think are probably going to get cut. I don't think anyone else, just looking at it, they definitely go keep Sandy and Squidward and all those. Out of all the other characters that you guys can see on the screen, I don't think they're going to end up having some of these characters get cut from just looking at it. And just looking at it right now, everybody else is going to make it in. I don't think they're going to cut Odie. I think he's going to be able to stay at Garfield, Ginny. They're good selling points. Part of Toastman. They could definitely get another rep for Ren and Stimpy. But we're going to move on now. Outside of just the racers or the drivers, let's move on to the crew. Let's move on to the crew members and the chiefs and crew members now, and start talking about some potential playable characters for playable chiefs in that could be able to get the upgrade and move to a racer. With some of the chiefs in the games that just to show y'all, what's some of the chiefs in the game that you guys think are going to probably be playable? And I'm going to get into my picks. So I already mentioned Mr. Krabs at the beginning. Mr. Krabs can be playable considering the fact that he's a Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 playable, as well as Plankton for newcomers. So I see Mr. Krabs and Plankton getting the upgrade and becoming playable. And I think Plankton's going to be with Karen. So you can take Karen out of the crew members. I think Karen is going to be with Plankton as a playable together as a little bit of a duo. Because they're part of each other in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 as the one of the fighters. So Mr. Krabs and Plankton, I think, are going to get the changes. They're going to get upgraded to being playable. Some other characters, since they're going to get the upgrades, which I think they're more than likely probably going to become playable with these two new SpongeBob reps, additional SpongeBob reps to take Kamper SpongeBob and Kamper Patrick's place. Who's going to be the next chiefs to take their role? Because that takes away it's 30 chiefs in this game. So that's going to knock you down to 28. Who's going to be able to take these other places for other potential SpongeBob reps? Maybe they'll do King Neptune, Man Ray, Dirty Bubble is already one of the crew members. But they're missing. Maybe Mermaid and Barnacle Boy might end up becoming a chief. But they have so many SpongeBob characters and so many SpongeBob reps, maybe they can probably get additional characters to really play these roles and be able to have 3 additional SpongeBob chiefs to get it in. Now, some other ones outside of Plankton and Mr. Krabs, I think Angelica is going to possibly have a chance to return to get re-upgraded all over again, because she was playable in Nickelodeon Kart Racers too, but she got cut and became a chief. They just completely cut off Tommy. He's nowhere to be seen in this game. But Angelica, I put her in for a playable chief. Grandma Gertie, she's also a newcomer in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. She's going to be playable. And then I put in a Heffer return. He could probably be able to return with Angelica, because he was also a playable racer in Kart Racers too. And then, just like I mentioned with Oblina, maybe Ickis will probably get the upgrade and be a playable racer and maybe take Oblina's spot and take up that slot. But I would love to see both of them playable together, Oblina and Ickis. There's no way for Chrome to be able to be playable, due to his, you see the character model. There's just no way. But I put in Ickis in this list, and I also added My Life as a Teenage Robot. Start talking about this real quick. I put in Vexus. She could be an upgraded character to be able to join Jenny. Jenny is the only playable racer from My Life as a Teenage Robot series. Vexus deserves to be a playable. We need some more villains to become playable in this game. There's too many protagonists. There's too many heroes loading up the slots. We need some more villains to become playable and get some more love for sure. And I threw in another possible character that could probably take her, I wouldn't say take Jenny's place. They're definitely going to keep her in. But to join Vexus and Jenny or XJ9, maybe Melody Locust, possibly. I think she had a connection with Brad, if I remember correctly. Maybe some of y'all would like to see Melody Locust, and Vexus can probably be able to join her to be able to be playable with Jenny. And then some Garfield reps. I put in Jon Arbuckle as a potential character, a new racer, a new Garfield rep to get into the game. I'm also going to mention some other ones because we're going to move on to the crew members. But Jon Arbuckle, I think, might be another additional Garfield rep that some of y'all might end up wanting to see become playable as a playable racer. And then one more chief that I didn't mention that I think could probably be cool to be playable, Sheen. But I honestly think he's probably not going to end up being playable. They'll probably end up picking Hugh Neutron over Sheen, which I wouldn't mind. But Sheen would be awesome to still see as an additional rep. because Jimmy Neutron only has 2 playable racers, Jimmy Neutron himself and then Cindy Vortex. 2 great picks, but we can definitely get like maybe 4 reps, 4 playable racers to be able to be playable as far as the Jimmy Neutron series go. But those are the chiefs. Everybody else that's a chief in this, I don't think it's gonna really be playable. I wouldn't mind seeing Lynn or Lisa. Phoebe would probably be cool, but I think she's gonna stay a chief. She's gonna stay a crew member. Phil and Lil, Gaz and Dib for new zone playables. Maybe they could, but they've always been chiefs and crew members, so they might keep them the same. But those are what I mentioned as far as the chiefs. Now, last but not least, we're gonna move on to the crew members, crew engineers, crew mechanics, or just the crew members itself. So crew members as playables that I can see, I just finished talking about Hugh Neutron, or basically Jimmy Neutron. I think Hugh Neutron is gonna be a playable racer, and then moving on to Garfield, another additional rep, Nermal. Some people mentioned Nermal. Some people wanted to see Nermal to be able to be playable. Some people probably like this to be another additional Garfield rep to join Garfield, Odie, Jon Arbuckle, and many others. And then if he's not a boss, but he's still gonna be he could be unlockable. You guys can already see it. Like two Vlad Plasmius on the screen. I didn't know you could do that. But I put it in Vlad Plasmius as a crew member getting the upgrade to be a playable. And if he's a boss, he might be a boss, or maybe a boss challenge. They'll bring the challenges back. You see how they had those challenges where you unlock. You have to win against them and defeat the boss. And unlock a new character from the conditions from the challenges. Vlad Plasmius could be a challenge boss, or one of those boss characters that you can run into and you have to race against. Once you defeat him, you can unlock him. And he got a bigger spotlight in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, being one of the main villains in the story. So it'll be cool to see him get to become playable. Even though she's not in this game right now, I think Ember's also going to be able to join him as well. Now, just what they did with Azula, maybe they'll choose Firelord Ozai, another iconic villain that could be playable. It'll be awesome to see him join Zuko. How would you guys like that? I put in Firelord Ozai, and then let's start talking about the Loud House a little bit. I think one of these characters, both Leni and Lori Loud, could be playable crew members for some new additional roster changes. Some people have they play favorites when it comes to the Loud House. It's 10 sisters and one son, but basically Lincoln Loud is the only one in comparison to his 10 other siblings. 10 sisters for Lincoln Loud. But I don't think it's just going to be Lucy Loud and Lincoln, or Lincoln and Lucy Loud coming in as a duo with Clyde, of course. But I think they're going to probably add either Leni and Lori. Maybe both of them will get in. Some of y'all like Luna. Everyone has different preferences. It would be cool to see Lola and Lana as well. I wouldn't mind either one, but I put in Lori and Leni as new Loud House reps to be able to get into the game for new playables to get the upgrade. Maybe the rest of the other Louds will probably end up will end up staying as crew members. They might even go as far as adding the Casa Grandes to be included. We'll probably be able to see them make their appearance and get in and hit the tracks. Maybe we'll have maybe two or more of the Casa Grandes to be able to get into the game, to be able to replace some of these characters, to take Lori and Leni's spot, or maybe one of these two sisters or the 2 siblings from the Loud House to take their spot, and the Casa Grandes can probably get a representation in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if they go that route. Now, another character that got changed, he got downgraded. He was a playable, just like Heffer and the other ones. Shredder became a crew member, exclusive crew member from the DLC. Only he was locked behind the paid DLC. I think Shredder will be able to return as a boss and become a playable. It'll be nice to see him again. And then just wrapping up, I went and added Master Splinter and Casey Jones as possible potential playables, considering they're playable in TMNT. If you guys play Shredder's Revenge, Master Splinter and Casey Jones is also playable. Casey Jones is locked, but you have to complete the story to be able to unlock Casey Jones, and he becomes a playable. Casey and Master Splinter were both new playable characters in Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. What's stopping them from making them into playable racers? But I think they'll probably end up staying. One of them might end up getting in, but TMNT will be stacking up with loads of characters. They'll probably end up staying as crew members, but I put them in my list as potential, like just maybe some characters that can be playable as well to join in the TMNT. The more the better. And then the last one I went with, maybe they'll add in Mrs. Puff. Maybe Mrs. Puff will probably be able to get in and be an additional SpongeBob rep, but she might end up becoming a chief. Mrs. Puff deserves to be a chief. She could probably have an even better skill. But this skill is pretty good, getting instant purple sparks when you drift. As soon as you start drifting, you just get the instant purple sparks, and then it'll maximize just within a split second or two. It'll max out to the blue sparks, and you get that maximum speed for your drift speed and things like that. So I think just from looking at these crew members, Gary's gonna stay. It fits his role. Flying Dutchman, he'd be cool to be playable, but I didn't put none of these characters in as playables because I think they're probably gonna most likely stay. Dr. Stockman, Crane, Bebop and Rocksteady. I would be surprised to see them as playables, but I think they're gonna be able to stay as crew members. And maybe some chiefs. They might even get swapped over into chiefs. Carl, I would like to see, and so many others. They got really a good amount of characters. This roster in this game is the biggest of them all. So I think it's a lot of changes that they can do. They can upgrade them. They can make them move, make them become playable like Carl and Nick and Libby. You see, and characters like Spunky, you never see those characters become playable racers because those are just characters that you will already know right off the bat are going to be crew members. The Chameleon Brothers and things like that, they're going to have that supporting role for a crew member. The Greasers could be able to get upgraded and so much more. It goes on and on as far as the characters that they have. So I'm just hoping that they bring back some of the characters that didn't deserve to get cut, like Tommy and Angelica, and then they can continue to expand and add new series of characters that could be able to join in. Because it's funny to say all these characters in this one role, I don't think they're going to be able to make it in, and they're all in the same role. Take this role away, you add more to the game, and then these two down here, it's etc. It goes on and on. They have so many characters that they could put in. This was just 40 plus characters. They can get more in all these additional series. Just with this roster right here, with these series all represented, Zim, Invader Zim, Ren and Stimpy, My Life as a Teenage Robot, Danny Phantom, Garfield, Cat Dog, things like that. They got single reps like them. They can get more and add on to it. And then with just this roster itself, just think about it. This has 40 characters, and then 30 chiefs, and I forgot how many crew members there are. Just imagine if they added more of those missing series that deserve to make it in. Even some of those new shows that can get in, like Rock, Paper, Scissors, and then some of those missing shows, Rocket Power, Chalk Zone. So we kept on asking about Harvey Beats. They could get all those shows to be playable and get represented. Just imagine how giant this roster could be for Nickelodeon Kart Racers 4. And if it's not base roster, think about the DLC and post-launch plans, post-launch content that they can bring out. Some of those characters that might be missing, they can still have a chance to come back. They can do a season pass like they did for All-Star Brawl 2 and make the characters come out and have playable characters that they can be able to expand on. And some of the characters that's going to probably get cut, the tracks are probably not going to make a return. They'll have new tracks that can get introduced. all new tracks, and then with going back to the DLC, you can be able to add new tracks with the new racers and make it paid DLC, so the developers can benefit, the players can get excited and have the content and have characters to look for and be able to continue to play the game while it's probably it can have crossplay. So everybody's excited, they're constantly and consistently playing the game. They'll have players to play with and not just waiting for hours and just waiting a half hour to play one match, only for somebody to leave as soon as they lose, or just see that you have all the badges and they'll just leave right there within seconds. Then you gotta wait another half hour to find players. They can really have one game that continues to grow, and you don't have to keep starting over and all the time. Wait another 2 years and make another product. You can continue to build and improve the product, and the developers can continue to benefit and reap in the benefits with the characters that people want to see, the new tracks and the new content to keep the game going. So people are not dropping it right after the first weekend and getting bored so quickly when they don't have anything to look forward to, and they move on. So I'm really hoping that they make the necessary changes, and then even if characters get cut, they can possibly return and get a different show and new series. They had Jimmy and Jenny make it into this game, who never were in the previous other kart racers 2 in the first game, with as small as that roster was, very small. But see what they did with this game, they could do a lot better. Open up that cross-play, get post-launch content, and then we have all types of things we can look forward to for updates for the game if this game ends up becoming something real.